Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's Cluster over there.
Hello.
And we're here at the end of Imposter Syndrome
Mm-hmm.
with issue number 4. How are y'all feeling?
Oh, you ask how I'm feeling when it's the audience who should be scared. For tonight, before your very eyes, you will be witnessing that most terrifying of things you can experience on the internet.
Oh, yes.
A mild difference of opinion.
Hmm. Indeed, indeed. Uh,
Or to put it another way, throughout this whole miniseries, I feel like I've been if we were to be rating these on a scale of 1 to 5,
yeah.
I've relatively consistently, I think, been scoring these issues like 1 point on a 5 point scale higher than you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been slightly warmer on this story the whole way.
Yeah, not hot, but warmer.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been rating anything a 5, 4 at most. But
I mean, I'd say 4 was the peak of this miniseries, too.
yeah, and I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not even a slight. It's just like not everything is a 5 out of 5.
I mean, I'll tell you what, it's it's better than Bad Guys, the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
This is a step up from that. So bravo for reaching that.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. As per usual, we'll be going through recapping the events of the story and commenting on them as we go. Then we'll give our overall thoughts, and then afterwards we'll talk about the miniseries and the lead up to the 50th issue next month as a whole.
Yeah.
That's for later.
Uh, but we at the very beginning here, there is a cover. Um,
Yes,
and
and it is the fourth in a series of connecting covers,
mhm.
which they've been doing. Each of the miniseries, Sonic miniseries published by IDW, have been doing connecting covers.
Yeah.
For this miniseries and the first miniseries, I believe Tangle Whisper was also the A cover for
Yes.
the connecting
I
covers.
think cover B was where Diana Skelly's connected cover for Bad Guys was.
Yeah, I'm not sure
And
why they decided to not do the connecting cover and cover A that time, but
yeah, I don't know. It's not like they had some great alternative for cover A throughout the Bad Guys miniseries, but yeah, I thought cover B, the connected cover Bs of Bad Guys was pretty okay. Had a bit of a dud of an ending, but pretty okay. The connected
they
cover,
the connecting covers for bad guys were like artistically fine.
mm-hmm.
Um, but after the connecting A covers, hey Freyo and Sat.
Hey Freyo and chat, we're very interested to share our thoughts and maybe hear some of yours here.
Yeah, but after the connecting covers for Tangle and Whisper being not only utterly beautiful, but also really connecting with the story of each issue
And
as they
uplift and
go,
lifting it up the whole series.
and just like each one really feels like it fits on that part of the story, and it's just really well done. And then the connecting covers for the connecting beat covers for Bad Guys then followed that up by just kind of existing.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't really connect to the story at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then but they were artistically fine. And then we have these connecting A covers.
Which I don't think we've been blown away by any of them artistically.
No,
This is a step down, I would say, though.
this one looks bad. I'm sorry, but
It looks pretty bad, I think.
this cover is just very unappealing to me. I don't like at all how Surge is drawn.
Neither do I, but that's nothing new. And just on another note with these connecting covers, we now know for a fact they've been bullshitting us
Yeah.
because Sonic and Tails never appear.
Well, they appear in one panel,
I mean,
which we'll get to.
like in a flashback.
It's happening at the same time. It's not a flashback here, I think, but it is events from a previous issue 49.
Yeah, yeah.
But Yeah, they're not.
Also, Hey Freyo writes in chat, by the way, I was catching up on IDW Sonic and saw a letter from Cluster in issue 37, I think, and there was a typo, but
Yeah,
she
yeah.
corrected it.
I think I've gotten 2 letters printed.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive to my none. So, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Very, very, Aw, Hey Freya writes, the line work looks a bit sloppy on this cover. Brackets, sorry if that's mean. It's okay to criticize. It's a mark of respect, I think.
It's the thing is, it doesn't look very good in my opinion. um, it definitely, I think, like you said, a step down from the previous covers that it's connected to.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's all one long piece.
Yes.
Like the pencils, I think, for the whole thing have been posted online. It's just one contiguous piece of art.
Yeah.
But this is the worst looking part, and I wasn't exactly being thrilled by the earlier parts either.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm very upset that, like, because I don't consider their cameos in this issue to be on the level of, look, it's Sonic and Surge interacting this whole series.
Yeah,
in the covers. Like,
we're very much, for some reason, having a significant amount of interaction, and, like, the only characters who are directly interacting across a series of covers that actually interact are Surge and Metal Sonic.
Yeah!
Which happens in this issue. Because Sonic and Tails are away from the action the whole time. While Eggman does finally show up in this issue, he never makes contact with Starline aside from being over a video call briefly. And certainly doesn't start fighting anyone.
Yeah.
That's being set up for issue 50. And, like, we've already seen, I think, maybe all but 1 or all but 2 of the issue 50 covers, because there's way too many.
I think we have 2 left. Tyson Hess's and John Gray's.
And, like, I know one of the covers is very much setting up, like, like, leaning on the fact that, Sonic and Surge are meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
With Sonic, like, standing dramatically on some rubble and Surge in, like, looking like in a semi-defeated position. And, like, I feel like it kind of takes away from it when we've just been having this cover happening, just positioning them kind of fighting as if there's no real importance to them meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a big thing. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme, but these covers have been bugging us kind of the whole time.
It matters to me though, because this is cover A. This is the stuff that's supposed to represent the story the most. And it's all just been sacrificed as in some marketing ploy. Just like, okay, we're advertising issue 50 on the covers for every single issue of this miniseries, and I think that just bumps me out. That's it.
And like, there have been good, like, B covers and such for this miniseries too. And like, I think there's a perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable B cover for this issue that captures a moment in the story. But
yeah. But yeah. So now we're here with the story inside. I guess we could just move on to.
We have Imposter Syndrome, the 4th and final issue of this miniseries. Story by Ian Flynn, art by Thomas Roethlisberger with additional inks by Gigi Dutrey, colors by Valentina Pinto, letters, as always, by Son Lee, with the editors, of course, being Riley Farmer and David Marriott.
Cast page still sucks. Recaps things pretty okay.
It's shown various panels that I think basically get you up to speed, though. You probably should read the previous issues if you want to know the story.
Also, there is a typo in the cast page. Because Kit is supposed to be the high-flying Hydromancer, but there's an R before the D in Hydromancer, so it's Hydromancer.
Do you want a fun little fact about language?
Yeah.
So the Mancer, which like it's used in fiction to be like, oh, like a sorcerer of a thing, like a pyromancer is a magical person of fire.
Yeah.
But it actually comes from a root that means like talk to, because like a necromancer was someone who talked to the dead, not someone who controlled the dead.
I see.
So this funny little thing from the actual root of the word, it would just mean that Kit talks to water.
I could talk to water.
Yeah, I mean anyone
wouldn't
talk
listen
to the
much.
dead.
Wouldn't listen the way that it listens to Kit.
I think necromancers might be a little overrated. I can go to a graveyard and set up some tombstones. They're not special.
Oh hey, Bob Smith. You got a generic sounding name. I bet you did some things while you were alive. Well, I'm still alive, so eat that. We say all of this, but page 1 actually opens with a scene we quite like.
Yeah, we actually start off with a flashback into vaguely early into the Metal Virus Plague. Based on the scenery, it's probably just after infecting Windmill Village, I assume, because that was off in the sort of the mountains in the forest. Mm-hmm. And that was, I think, the first strike.
Yes.
Of the Metal Virus.
And it's there that Starline asks, if he can ask, a question about Eggman's methods.
And Eggman is just like leaning over the railing, watching the metal goo, and he's just smiling. And it's just like, you may.
Yeah, he's in a good mood.
He's having a good time. You know, it's the beginning of the evil plan before things have started to go awry.
Yeah. And Starline asks, why all the theme parks?
And Eggman's reply is simply, I like theme parks.
Oh, and that's just so cute. And we get a pretty decent illustration of the contrasting priorities of Starline and Eggman.
Yeah, Starline...
Yeah, Starline...
Of course, you know, even back when I wasn't really connecting with his character in Metal Virus, he has been a character who, while he looks up to Eggman, he keeps trying to do things more efficiently. Mm-hmm. He keeps trying to think about, like, how to best achieve the goals, rather than Eggman, who is all about being grandiose, being bigger than life, and, like, doing things his way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so Starline points out how the theme parks, you know, very common level design and atmospheric thing that Eggman does,
just aren't remotely practical. And that all that time, all those resources could be used more economically.
Yeah. But Eggman has a pretty fun line here, honestly. Mm-hmm. Where he says, I don't settle for the world as it is, Doctor. I make it what I want it to be. And then there's a bit of a sillier, less cool line, which that's not a
slight.
A slight against the writing, for the record. Where he says, if I want my enemy's last wounds to be carousel music and the smell of petroleum-based cotton candy, that's what I'll make happen. And I think the fact that it is way less dramatic is a good thing, I want to point out. Mm-hmm. Like, he starts with this really inspiring-sounding line, and then kind of ruins it, and that's great.
I mean, he's kind of, like, pulling on just a very stereotypical idea of, like, a theme park. That doesn't really necessarily reflect the reality of Eggman Land as he often does, as it's often existed. I don't think we ever see a cotton candy vendor at any point during any of the games, even Sonic Colors.
No, but you know, it's meant to evoke imagery. He's not being literal.
Yeah, and I think that works for the scene.
Yeah,
and Starline in his most just wide-eyed, just naive moments before he's become disillusioned. He's like, words live by, sir. Yes, petroleum-based cotton candy, yes. And he's so excited and happy.
But then we cut to now, where he's not so wide-eyed. In fact, his eyes are half-lidded now.
Yep, he is squinting a bit. And he says the words were no less inspiring even after all this happened. Before doing one of his monologues for a very not into it Surgeon Kit.
Yeah, Kit is just looking very ominous and creepy child who's gonna murder someone.
Yeah.
While Surge is just looking like, fucking shut up. God.
Yeah, but Starline is monologuing about how this is going to end everything. Dr. Eggman's wasteful ways, Sonic's endless war with him, and the sun will rise on a new era, blah, 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 blah. And then he asks Surge, and Surge says, "Let's do it, Doc." And he goes to Kitsunami, and who salutes and says, "Ready, sir?" And
yeah. And when he turns to Surge, Surge immediately brightens up like, "Oh yeah, I'm good."
Yep.
Kit is just staring and looking bored. And then when he looks to Kit, Kit's like, "Oh yes, I'm ready and attentive." While Surge is like, just cutting a thumb across her neck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna get you later.
Yeah. The neck she doesn't have.
As soon as he's not looking.
And then
Starline looks forward, turns on his speed Zeus, and then his minions are back to looking ominous in their ways.
Yes.
Behind him.
As he says, "Then let us begin." And so some action occurs.
Yeah. Action sure does occur. We see Starline looking flamboyant because
that's what they're doing.
What they do with him.
Mm-hmm.
We see Surge breaking some. This was chicken cannoneers.
Yeah.
A coconut appears, and Kit saves Surge by grabbing the exploding coconut with his water and throwing it back.
Mm-hmm. And then there's that big monster robot from Sonic Heroes.
Yeah,
we've been seeing it.
You were playing through Sonic Heroes recently, and those guys are annoying.
They are. That's just as they are every time I see them in the comic. Ryan is in chat. Hey Ryan, action did occur. But yeah, like.
Yeah, unlike their earlier interaction with a big hammer one, Kit immediately starts helping out, and as does Starline, using his his little spurs on his cowboy boots.
Doesn't look very good.
He just kind of like kicks out the heel of the foot of the robot, which I don't think is that helpful, because it's mostly just Surge impacting its cranium that destroys it.
Yeah, there's a lot of action for a miniseries that never really feels like it's gotten the hang of evoking action in a sequential art sort of way.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll get a better fight scene when issue 50 happens and it's actually consequential.
Yep.
But
yeah, Starline tells the two to keep drawing their fire while he uploads the override program. And Kit responds, "Yes, sir."
And then has a little bit of a strategy meeting briefly with Surge.
Mm-hmm.
Basically saying that they need to make enough of a distraction so that Eggman doesn't realize he's getting hacked.
Yeah, and Surge admits that while she hates Starline, she does like this part of the plan with the unrestrained wanton destruction, and tells Kit to grab on before
fixes his water tentacles around her torso, and she just runs off with their legs going all blurry, like a Sonic would.
Mm-hmm. And then the Kit kind of confusingly just asks if it's all right that they're using Dr. Starline's plan against him.
I guess just because he has anxiety.
I guess, but I've gotten the sense that like Kit's like more sour on Starline than Surge in some respects, because like he can hardly like keep like a non gonna fuck you up face.
Yeah, but I feel like he's also kind of like not just is he visibly like changing from innocent child to evil murder doll child. I think that's meant to be like he really is in his heart still kind of the innocent child
Mm-hmm.
at the same time that he's the murder doll child.
Okay.
And just like that's fine. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fine for a character, but Surge reassures Kit.
Saying that every dirty deed they do that day is justified, little man. The only person that Kit ever has to be loyal to is Surge, says Surge.
Yeah, and she grabs his hands and he looks like he's blushing a bit
Yeah,
and is very happy.
very happy about their friendship, and then Surge chucks Kit into the head of a monster who.
Because Kid is like a buzzsaw and he cuts it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a giant grounder,
Mm-hmm.
whatever those are called.
A giant grounder.
Hmm.
And we cut back to Orbot and Qbot, who we haven't seen since test run.
Yeah, where at the end of test run they decided to go on a little
Sabbatical.
vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and got tossed off the tornado.
Yeah.
And so they are with, comedic sweat drops all over, trying to
Mm-hmm.
creep back in with, Orbot saying that they have 50-50 odds that he didn't even notice they were gone. And
And
if
then
he
Eggman.
didn't, they're in the clear.
And if he did,
And it's
it's.
been nice knowing you, pal, he says to Qbot.
But Eggman did notice.
Yep.
And or Qbot says that they were just getting a little R&R before getting nudged.
Yeah, a little elbow in the whatever part of the robot body that part of his cube is.
Yeah.
And Orbot transparently lies that they were conducting reconnaissance and more reconnaissance.
Which Eggman does not seem to buy whatsoever.
He looks thoroughly unconvinced, but I mean, it is not the first time Orbot and Qbot have disappointed him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he just tells him to log back into the network and get him a sit rep. Because he's getting reports that Sonic and Tails are making a mess, and apparently he just is so reliant, so used to having Orbot and Qbot running his computers for him that he's just refused to get up out of his chair and turn on the monitors himself.
Yeah.
I assume he would have in like a minute or two if they
Yeah.
hadn't come by, but like,
Just
it just wouldn't do.
a pain. But the reports are, the battle data looks interesting. And
Yeah.
bizarre.
Orbot says that it matches Sonic and Tails' profiles, but the details are incongruent.
And Eggman's like, oh, can you give me that in English?
Well, he
like
says, what are you yammering on about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Orbot brings up a screen, and we see Surge doing a Sonic Mentor pose, and Kit, I guess,
Kind of the...
doing a tail whip like Tails used to do a lot for his attack.
It looks a little like a Tails art I've seen. I'm not gonna pay too much attention to it because my appreciation for this comic dwindles every time I see a reference just shoved in.
We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. Eggman asks who the hell they are.
Ryan in chat notes that Kid is doing the Sonic Adventure 1 Tails.
You know, I thought that was what was happening, and I was really hoping I could just go the rest of my life just kind of having a feeling that was what was happening without really knowing. But here we are.
Yeah, here we have Eggman. Here we have Eggman seeing Surge and Kit for the first time, and he looks curious, but then angry because what's the important thing is that they're wrecking his stuff. But then he looks menacing because he has just the thing to deal with, in his words, pesky speedsters and their bratty companions.
Yeah. And then Surge has some famous last words.
Yes, he's kicking around a caterpillar's head.
Yeah, being
Or
like,
is that a buzz bomber?
some fucking thing. And it's like,
They have very similar heads.
it's the best Eggman has to offer. Only reason Sonic hasn't won is because he clearly isn't trying. And then Metal Sonic decks her.
Yes, he gets smashed out of frame by just a beam of motion. And then it gets slammed into a wall. But she's not angry about it.
Oh no, she's all excited because now she has a challenge.
For once in her today. And there's some fighting. Surge attempts to beat Metal Sonic, but Metal Sonic has a lot of experience fighting very fast people, and so is just kind of creaming her.
Yeah. And...
he hits her with the Puny God. He uses that barrier that Ian really likes to write into his stories. Does that one barrier move Metal Sonic has.
Yeah, and then Surge demands that Kit support her.
But he's holding her up right by her shoulders. And so he insists he is supporting her.
In the fight, Surge adds just supporting the fight, come on.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute.
Metal and Surge charge against each other, and they do that thing where, you grab the other person's hands, and you're just kind of pussing. I feel like that always needs a name, but I never have a name for it.
And it's here that it's brought up again. Oh, you want to be the real Sonic, but you are not Sonic.
Yeah. Surge says, "You ain't got the heart. You ain't got the soul." Then she gets kneed in the stomach, and Metal is about to, I guess,
kill
claw her probably. Then a water tentacle appears and stops Metal's hand.
To which Surge finishes, and you ain't got the backup.
Because it's true. No one cares about Tailstall. But Metal just kind of rotates his body to, I guess, twist Kit around and slam him into the ground. But Surge also jumps up. It's kind of a confusing panel.
It kind of is.
But see, homing attacks him in the mouth?
Yeah.
But then Kit, who I guess wasn't that dazed, grabs Metal. Surge, a little confused, tells Surge to drown Metal. Which... yeah.
Then Surge spins in a tornado, and then makes a lightning happen.
I honestly like this. She does a spin that makes me think a lot of like the spins they did a lot in Underground. They would do this tornado-y spin a lot, and then she sort of ends it with a snap of her fingers that does a big electricity. I guess he was building up power. I like it. I could accept this being just a move Surge has and can pull out.
Also, Ryan adds in chat, what about Mechaknuckles? Then ... What about Mechaknuckles?
Exactly.
Thanks for that one.
Surge doesn't really have an iconic move he can just bust out. And until now, he's got whatever this is. It doesn't have a name.
And there's a pretty neat panel of them all in silhouette with Surge holding the snap pose.
Yeah. The finger snap is a cool thing. Yeah.
And Surge tells Metal Sonic, "You're never going to be Sonic because I'm going to replace him, and you're not even good enough to be my fake."
And
yeah.
I do just want to take a moment to pause and comment on this, because this is something that we've brought up in regard to how we feel about just references.
Yeah, we should talk about it, yeah.
And I want to bring up specifically references in the context of the writer of this comic, Ian Flynn. because Ian has a pretty long history in Sonic comics, and he is, of course, a Sonic fan. He was a Sonic fan before he started writing on the comic.
Mm-hmm.
It was also like his first professional writing gig, I believe, was just being handed the keys to the Sonic comics way back in like 2005, 2006, or thereabouts.
2006.
Yeah. And so it is a very common thing in Ian's dialogue that there are references either to iconic lines or even fandom things or the lyrics of songs, which are usually my least favorite because lyrics of songs are not the kind of thing that make for natural sounding dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest, if I was Ian's editor, I would just tell him no references.
Which apparently, on some level, he kind of was told at some point recently.
But that's just getting into stuff.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I feel like it really hurts his stories just to constantly be doing references. Just
Yeah.
there's no need for Surge to just be doing that one kind of awkward line that wasn't even that great in SA2 from Sato.
From the localized English script of Sonic Adventure 2.
Like, it wasn't even a great line in its time. It was fine. But, like, it's honestly, it's a stretch here. Like, you kind of had to take a long walk to even get to here, and it's not worth it.
It isn't.
It's just there so that fans who have played Sonic Adventure 2 can point at it and be like, I know that that's from Sonic Adventure 2.
And personally, I don't read Sonic comics just to have the writers show off how much they know about Sonic.
No, like, you know, a few references can be neat, and like I've even had fun with like some of the visual references.
Yeah.
Which I tend to prefer visual references over just the dialogue going out of its way to make itself worse, in my opinion.
Ryan writes in chat that they're with us. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's
the kind of thing that
Ryan continues. Visual references are fun. This isn't. In this case,
it just takes
certainly.
me out of it. Like, I remember, I think it was in issue 2, like, there was a reference to some song lyrics in Surge's dialogue, but it was actually, for once, naturalistic enough that I actually didn't notice it until you pointed it out.
Yeah, it was,
yeah. And, the biggest praise I can give for that is that if you don't know the lyric, you won't notice it's a reference. And that should tell you how I feel about references in dialogue.
Yep. But,
it's something that I don't think Ian is going to stop, but I really wish he would, because I think he can do better.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of how I feel sometimes when I read his stories, that I often feel like he can do better, but he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to stop putting in obvious references that beat it over your head with how much you probably know that this is a line of dialogue.
And it's a shame because I'd say overall this whole miniseries has just been some of his better work as of late.
Yeah, this is it's certainly the best comic from his I've read in a while.
But yeah. Serge asks Kit, how's your head?
He says fine, and that he's happy to help in any way.
And Serge tells Kit after laughing, we're gonna get along just fine, Kid.
Yeah, and they're.
But his name's Kit, not Kid. So actually, that's a continuity error.
Has he referred to him by name yet, or has it always been by some nickname?
I think. I feel like at some point must have called him Kit.
Either way. We cut from this battle, which was, you know, not the best, scripted action, like the best choreographed action I've seen, but not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty alright. It had some fun moments. I'd rate it pretty good for an Ian fight scene.
Mm-hmm. But Eggman gets all upset at these kids these days with their disrespect and their iPhones.
Because Sonic's victories are bad enough, but at least he shows some respect.
You know,
When he beats Metal Sonic, he's like, haha, yeah, let's race again sometime.
yeah, not like
And then
this.
and then the music goes do 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 do, and he stands around for a while as he waits to get scored on how well he did.
I mean, Eggman just overheard this upstart, this fucking upstart, just insulting his boy.
Mm-hmm.
Freya writes, I just remember her calling him Drippy a lot. Haha. Yeah, that's definitely the most common nickname.
I hope as their relationship develops, she stops calling him Drippy and gets a new nickname because it's not good.
I definitely don't prefer it. It's cool if you like it, but it's not our favorite.
Drippy just makes me slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Um, but Qbot notices that there's been a weird login.
Yeah, and then we cut to Eggman cutting in on Starline's monitor with a video call.
Oh, finally, after all those unresponded to video call requests on Starline's end. Yeah.
And we get a very not really necessary, but there's a little like visual magnification showing, look, Starline has a USB drive with his logo on it that's plugged into the machine.
His fucking toothpaste logo.
Just in case you were curious how he was uploading the program. It's minty fresh and going in the computer through this thumb drive. Like, I just don't know why it's there.
I'm not angry about it. It's just like,
I mean, it's a detail, but it's like, oh yeah, of course he's got a little USB drive. That makes sense. But it's like, there's drawing so much attention to it, and it's like, look, it's a USB drive.
Starling asks Eggman if he's surprised by his return.
And Eggman has a neat response that he's not surprised by his return, just the manner of it, saying, "You're supposed to come back bowing and scraping for me to." Bowing and scraping for daring to sass me. Not skulking around on my servers and... What are you doing?
To which Starling responds, succeeding you, sir.
And then the signal, as previously seen in issue 49, goes out.
Mm-hmm.
We see an aerial view of the base with all the many colorful trees.
Yeah.
And we see as various Eggman robots from all around get purple eyes as they're taken over.
Yeah.
Like, one's over in Purple Cave roller coaster land.
Yeah, from Sonic 2. Mystic Cave Zone, maybe?
And then one's from generic cave near a forest where they're mining? I guess this is a mining operation somewhere. And we see Motobud getting... taken over while Sonic is sleeping with a book on his face.
And all the coconuts are now being Surgeon Kit's best friends.
Yeah, I don't know how Surgeon Kit got surrounded by coconuts, but now the coconuts aren't gonna bomb them.
Yeah, because they're best friends now.
Mm-hmm. And even Orbot and Qbot, who are turning on Eggman.
Orbot says you're to be confined to quarters, old boss. And Qbot adds,
says, the master commands it. That's my best Qbot voice.
Yeah. And
we get a nice view of Eggman just towering over the two of them. Face in shadow, just seeing his goggles shining.
Mm-hmm.
He scrunches them into ball and cube form.
Very
and then
simply.
Just gets in his chair, hits a button, gets back up, goes down a hidden tube while the egg pawns come for him, and just very easily evades capture.
Yep.
Which is fun. I like how just mildly nettled and determined he looks throughout it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's not happy about it, but he's not worried.
Yeah. 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 But we cut back to Starlin and the others, and Starlin is enjoying his heroes just being carried over to the base.
Yeah, he has his butt resting on one Eggpon's hands, another is supporting his head,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got his feet leaning on a third one.
Yeah, just really kicking it here. And Serge asks if it's everything he hoped it would be.
To which he replies, "Bittersweet, as I imagined," and wipes away a tear.
But they've only begun, he says. Onward to his new seat of power.
This
And
is that big old tower sending out the signal.
yeah.
And he arrives, being saluted by Eggpons and welcomed in by Orbot and Cubot, his shadow all ominously being cast right below an Eggman logo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Orbot welcomes in as new boss,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
Starline gets himself into Eggman's chair and directs Orbot to bring every badnak in his Starline Empire to him.
It just doesn't have a good ring to it. It just doesn't, you know? It just doesn't. Starline
No.
Empire. That's not. Like, it's Eggman Empire. It's like
Maybe,
alliterative.
maybe Starline Enterprises? Maybe he should start up a company?
Maybe. You
But
know,
then everyone would think he sells toothpaste.
yeah, which, you know, I mean, I feel like you could get a good thing going there, but like, you know,
Yeah.
that's not his passion. Um, but everything seems to be going according to Starline's plan, stating that Sonic will surely notice as every Baddock is brought to him, will undoubtedly intervene.
And we see a panel showing Sonic carrying Bell and Tails following after Motobud, which is not quite how it happened, but it's basically, you know, it shows you they're following the Badniks, and it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't start grabbing them until after Motobud was already disabled, so, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a minor continuity little error.
Ooh.
I don't care.
Yeah. And then Sonic will be confronted and replaced, states Starline.
And we see Surge and Kit just kind of lounging on a random walkway.
Yeah.
Kit
And this
picking
fucking
his feet like a little boy, and
Yeah.
Surge like picking her ear with her pinky. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's a punk kid who doesn't have any respect for nothing smaller than your elbow. Nothing smaller than your elbow. Surge!
This is how it's done. Starline monologues to Orbot and Cubot. Patience,
Yeah.
planning, and preparation.
The 3 Ps.
Every variable accounted for and controlled. Tonight, Starline says, his meal is victory.
And as he's saying that, Orbot is noticeably having a bit of a little sock as he's holding up Cubot, who doesn't seem to have gotten out of he doesn't seem to have recovered
From being squashed into a cube.
Yeah.
And Starline asks what happened to him. And Cubot responds, Eggman squashed him before escaping.
This concerns the Starline.
Who asks where he escaped to.
And Orbot says that he took his personal suit to the Memorial Garage, mentioning that the display museum hasn't been finished yet.
And Starline can't stay upset or frantic as he just sits back in the chair and sighs. Perfectly manageable thanks to my previous planning. Whatever he uses will be taken over once he goes online. Send a detachment to gently take him into custody, he says.
And we cut down to the Memorial Garage, which shows at least 4 different, like, big boss Eggman robots. We got the Egg Dragoon, what looks in the foreground to be the Death Egg robot. We have the Egg Emperor. We have this other one I just could not place with massive orbs on its shoulders. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And Heckman is looking at them and saying that he thought he'd have time to refurbish all of these. Oh well. And he gets into one of them, it's not clear wits, and says that it will have to do, well, the screen's in front of him, reversed, but it's not that tough to read. Offline boot up complete, full
manual control
online, ready to launch, and then all systems full power.
Yeah. So Starlin is already fucked up because
Eggman can just find the switch to turn off the Wi-Fi. Which I can do. I can turn the Wi-Fi off my computer. It would immediately make me not be in the call anymore. I won't do it.
Please don't.
Even though I could. You know, there's a little switch on my 3DS. I can just toggle that, and then there's no more Wi-Fi.
And,
But we cut back to Kit and Surge as Kit, with his massively wide mouth, is staring at the sky, being like, I
think that's the side of his, like, little,
Oh, that is his cheek tuft.
Yeah.
It just looks like his mouth is so wide. Like he's so surprised.
Like he's a...
Like he's a Muppet.
Like he's a Muppet, yeah. Just like...
I love Muppet Kit, actually.
Oh, man, we should have Muppet Kit from now on. But,
everyone else is normal, but Kit is just a Muppet who's been photo-edited into the comic.
Surge is not as impressed and says, I could take him.
Yeah, looking down on a bunch of the Hammer guys and some polar bears.
Before reiterating on their plan, that once they smoke Starline and the others, she'll get Kit to reprogram them all to self-destruct, all the badniks. But, I mean, we'll have... She wants to smash some. Most. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, but Kit has some concerns about how they're gonna handle Sonic.
And Surge replies, "Oh, I handle Sonic, you handle Tails."
Kit is like, but?
And Surge says, if the Egomaniac comes in solo, we'll handle like Metal Sonic. But if he's got the brat in tow, it's your job to keep him from distracting me. Once the heroes, quote-unquote, and doctors are done, we're free to play it by ear. Hunt down all their little friends, topple every dang city that threw them a parade, tear it all down, just you and me, kid. Sound good?
And then Kit says, I can't wait, while looking so evil.
Yes! Ooh!
And we get, next time, Sonic and Tails versus Surge and Kit in Sonic the Hedgehog number 50.
So, of course, that's next month. So we turn the page to see the next month page, and it says...
It says Sonic number 50, where it would normally say next month.
Yeah.
For the past so many months, they've been saying next month, and in the main series showing the next main series cover, and in the miniseries showing the next miniseries cover, even though they've been staggering, so the main series was followed by the miniseries, and the miniseries was followed by the main series, so it wasn't accurate anytime they said next month for the past, 8 comics.
And now,
when they finally have an opportunity to say next month, and make it accurate, I mean, they could have been sewing the next main series issue with the next month on the miniseries, the next miniseries on the main issue. But they don't even say next month.
No.
They say Sonic number 50. So this little thing that's been bugging us the whole time isn't even remedied now. And it won't be remedied until 50.
And that's the comic.
And that's the comic. And
that's the miniseries.
Miniseries. So...
I guess let's talk about the comic first before we get to our overall thoughts.
So, thoughts on this comic?
Yeah. I'd like you to start for us.
So, honestly, I like this. My issues with the, the references aside and all that, honestly, I had fewer quibbles with Ian's writing than I normally have, because there's a number of things that Ian has done in his stories that tend to annoy me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mostly actually enjoyed this. It feels pretty good. It feels like it's actually doing well. I so we are once again doing something that we've been doing with Starline for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't mind it here.
Yeah.
Because Starline has a habit of believing he's going to do everything perfectly well and that nothing's going to go wrong, and then everything immediately goes wrong, and things he didn't account for are happening. And in fact, he literally calls out, he says that, you know, every variable accounted for and controlled, only to immediately be shown that, in fact, Eggman escaped.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, I've already planned for that, and no matter what he does, I'll just take control of the robot. And then Eggman just turns all the Wi-Fi off.
Yeah.
Because Eggman is remotely competent.
Yeah.
And he knows how his own systems are built. So
Yeah.
it doesn't take a genius to figure out how Starline is controlling his robots. And how to prevent that from happening with these ones.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a genius, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
And I don't mind it here in the same way that I minded it when it happened over and over in Bad Guys.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because it hasn't happened over and over this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, Starline is actually, while he's been clearly doomed for failure, he's been doing pretty well up until just issue 3, where his mind control got turned back on him.
Yes.
Because he'd actually been, you know, handling Surge and Kit badly, but without failure for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you know, he naturally is going to be toppled, and with the way Starline has been, and the way that he's like, oh, I'm going to do it better than Eggman, of course he's going to shoot himself in the foot.
Yes.
He's going to do that until whenever the comics decide to make him Eggman's minion again.
Mm-hmm.
Which I figure is going to happen at some point, even if just briefly.
We'll see.
Sometime in the future. If not at the end of, you know, this storyline. Who knows?
We'll see. But, yeah, I'd say, my feelings on this, issue are, it was fine. It was fine. This is fine. You know, we had a comic here. We have a comic. We have the story, and it's setting up issue 50, and it's fine. It just bugs me that I'm paying to be advertised to.
Yeah, so I will say, while I will say overall that I've enjoyed this miniseries, I've enjoyed this comic, and I've enjoyed the story so far.
Hmm. I would agree with that.
It is the story so far.
Yep.
Because unlike the Tangle Whisper miniseries, unlike the Bad Guys miniseries, this is the first Sonic miniseries published by IDW that doesn't wrap up its own story inside itself and does not complete its own story at all.
Yeah.
And so while, you know, we can deliver our thoughts about this miniseries, we can't actually deliver final thoughts about this story because this story is not actually going to be finished even in issue 50. We already know from solicits that 50's story is not going to fully conclude until 51.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we'll talk more about when we're ready to talk about our overall feelings. But
yeah.
I continue to enjoy the developing friendship between Surge and Kit. I hope they continue on to be fun, and I hope that Surge gets some character development in terms of her, like, right now she's very much angry, rebellious teen, just wants to watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that her character gets put on a sustainable path maybe it might not be immediately because it'll probably take a bit, I
Mm-hmm.
imagine, but I hope that the comic does keep devoting time to her and her character, and that she does get put on a more sustainable path than trying to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And this doesn't feel like it's a remotely a status quo to keep. So I'm fairly confident that just for having a character around who can keep being a character, she's gonna get a better motivation at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Kit, I think honestly is basically fine as is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he I think works very well as a sidekick for Surge, and ultimately he just wants whatever she wants. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, well, there is definitely room for growth there. I don't think it's overly necessary as he fulfills his role as sidekick quite well.
Mm-hmm.
I also hope that Starline gets something out of this storyline ending.
Yeah.
Um, we don't know if Surge and Kit will ultimately end up still sticking with Starline and they'll become a unit, or if they'll, go away, if Starline will return to be with Eggman again, or what have you. But whatever happens, I do hope that Starline gets some kind of status quo change, even if it's just he is in a group with Surge and Kit now, which is the obvious one. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like his character's kind of been floundering for a while, and he also I think needs to be put on a more sustainable path.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah. I just I think what I kind of wanted out of this issue, which it didn't end up getting, was just like I didn't because we're already setting up issue 50 by having them go into this Eggman base and take it over.
Yeah,
And I think it would have been fine enough. I think it would have been a good resolution if just they didn't cut to Eggman already setting up his robot to fight Starline. You didn't cut to Sonic, Tails, and Bell on their way to do it. Just focus on the story that's being told right now. Because you've already set it up by setting up these characters and setting up them being here. You can just find some room in your double size issue 50 to like set up what's happening in issue 50 and let the miniseries end.
I think the problem there is that there is no ending for this miniseries, and I mean ultimately that is your problem. Is that
I mean, I was just thinking if they were setting up the confrontation and it just ended on Starline having the Eggman base and Insurgent Kit just being like, "Yep, we're gonna take things over." I think that would have been enough of an ending for me.
mm-hmm. There ultimately really is no resolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more prologue, and next month we will finally be getting the thing, this whole miniseries, as well as issue 49 and kind of 48 and Trial by Fire and kind of just the whole of the comics for a while have been building to this in some small way or another. And we are
Mm-hmm.
finally going to get that resolution mostly in 50 and then the rest of 51.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh. Also, apropos of nothing, I would just like to mention during this review that we have read the free comic book day issue sucked ass, and that's our review.
if you're wondering, because based on the solicit of it, it was like, oh, get caught up. But the actual thing is, the actual story in that issue has nothing to do with issue 50.
Yeah.
It's just a small story with Knuckles, with not great dialogue, and art that looks like, the artist was probably not paid that much or
Mm-hmm.
given that much time because it's not pretty.
It ain't it. I've seen better from everyone involved.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's a story that has nothing to do with anything happening in the comics right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then a recap of everything that's been happening. And if you just read the comics and read the Imposter Syndrome miniseries, you'll have more context than that free comic book day issue gives. The free comic book day is just there to promote issue 50 for people who aren't currently reading the comic, because it's literally free, and therefore people can come and read it. And it's got Knuckles in it, and Knuckles is more of a hot topic because there was a movie
Mm-hmm.
with Knuckles, and like, it's just marketing. And
See,
it's not my favorite marketing materials.
okay, yeah, okay, whatever. We're gonna have this free comic book day issue that's gonna bring Knuckles back into the comic for at least a little bit, at least for issue 50. And that's not what happened.
Yeah, and like, Knuckles might sew up. If he does, it'll be kind of transparently for marketing reasons, because he has nothing to do with this story.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't sew up, because that would be bloat.
Yeah. Freya writes, yeah, the art was definitely subpar in that free comic book days issue, kind of empty story. Our thoughts exactly.
Yeah, like, it was boring for me, and ugh.
It's outright tedious.
Yeah, it was a chore to get through, and then it's just, at the end of it, it's just like, I guess this doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Yep. Ryan misses Knuckle in chat. And Knuckles.
Yeah. I miss both of Knuckle also.
But yeah, I think that's everything. So I guess we just go over our overall thoughts on the miniseries, on just everything tied up here, because it's kind of a lot. So, time for our transition. It was not very long. It just happened really quickly.
Yeah.
I spent longer making the scene than it actually took to fade into it. I could have made it fade longer, but kind
of. To be fair, it usually takes long to make a thing than it takes to experience it.
Yeah.
You know,
I just kind of hyped up the transition, and then it wasn't really all that.
Yeah, there are those connecting covers.
They kind of faded into the background, so you don't see how they don't really connect. Yeah. And
so Imposter Syndrome, the miniseries, as well as the Road to Issue 50.
That's what we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah. And I mentioned that every comic for a while has in some way or another been building up to issue 50. And specifically, I mean everything since Bad Guys and How Racism Badnik Bases.
Yeah.
With Crab introduced Belle, who is, of course, has been very important in the main series side of the lead up to issue 50.
Yes.
And both Bad Guys and Crab had the first hints of Surts and Kit in them. As while Starline was off doing plotting and things, he had these test tubes, ominous test tubes, which obviously had two, bio warriors in them. And finally we saw them. And, that's just sort of been a thing that had been for a while just kind of vaguely there. And not terribly being drawn attention to, but if you're looking, you're going to notice he's got these big green tubes. And you kind of make you curious. And of course, ultimately, that resolved into these two new characters.
Yeah.
And Belle's story continued in through Test Run as we got more explicit confirmation about what her story is, who she is to Eggman, and how she, relates to Mr. Tinker. There was Zeddy Hunt, which was mostly pointless, but it did set up Starline extracting the code out of Belle that he put into the biological brains of Surts. That plot point is still weird.
It's weird. I feel like they could have done without that, and if nothing else...
I think it was just because... The thing is, the story for Surts and Kit was already here and present. Belle was retrofitted into that story after the fact. And so that, I think, was just a way, not a very clean way, but a way to try and make Bell more important into the Surge and Kit side of things. And I don't even know if that's going to come up later, or if it'll just be like a technical fact that is just there and doesn't matter, which so far is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you didn't need all of Zeddy Hunt to do that. All it needed was like, because they call attention to like how undefended Restoration HQ was in Zeddy Hunt. Just have Starline sneak in. In fact, Starline was sneaking in beside the Zeddy, and the Zeddy kind of derailed that, but he still managed to get by. Okay.
Yeah, and like the only other thing that Zeddy Hunt has done for the story is that technically Bell is currently immune to Wi-Fi because of the prototype Zeddy Zapper that Tails still had hanging around.
Which I think they could have come up with something else to do with anyway.
Well, the thing is, you could just have Tails say, "Oh, I have this prototype thingy that I've been working on," or have it even be interconnected with their signal testing of like, I made this just in case I needed to quickly deactivate any signal potential. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's the kind of thing that you could have just written a different way to have it be both a thing to be used on Bell and have it be the only one so that they don't have an easy way to save both Bell and Motobud. Because there needed to be only one of them.
Yeah. I just... yeah.
But yeah, Zeddy Hunt was a really weak story, and I really wish a different story was there in its place that accomplished the same overall goals, because, number one, I think all the goals it did accomplish were pointless, and we didn't even need, so... You know, honestly, I would have preferred a story that had nothing to do with anything, rather than Zeddy Hunt. I did not like that story.
See, I think what they could have done was like take all the real estate that Zeddy Hunt took up, and just start doing Trial by Fire with Imposter Syndrome as the B story. And it takes longer, but I think it would have averaged out to like about the same amount of comic being told by issue 49, with both stories resolving up to leading up to issue 50.
I mean, you'd be taking out 4 issues to be taking 4 issues of story, the miniseries, and putting it into the comic. So, quite literally, yes, you could have just had Imposter Syndrome in the main series.
Yeah.
The only thing that might have been even a bit odd about it would be the lack of Sonic, but we had Trial by Fire.
We did.
We had Chaotix in Hit the Streets.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. We've done stories that have had no Sonic in them, practically, just like a little bit of cameo appearances. And it's fine.
It's fine. People like the overall cast of Sonic. That's why they read the comics.
Yeah. Ultimately, I feel like... Well, I don't feel like... A lot of our issues with the formatting of this miniseries and the way that it was trading off with the main series and being weirdly dishonest, as it kept saying next month for comics that were coming 2 months out from then, and then the fact that we had to wait 2 months in between issues, which just made it less easy to read and experience of the story as opposed to only having a 1 month gap. We had a lot of issues, and we've been talking about them as we've been going through, of just like the various annoyances that this format and the way that it, for the first time, this miniseries directly connects in to the events of the main story.
Yeah.
Because bad guys did relate to terrorists and batting bases, but the only thing that mattered in Bad Guys was that Starline got a new toy. The Tricore. And that doesn't matter.
I feel like he could have just shown up with that.
Yeah, like that's the thing. In a lot of stories, the villains will just off-screen... I mean, heck, it happens in Sonic all the time. It's usually how you open a story is Eggman has this new thing he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't actually need to have a backstory for the villain's new toys. You can just have a new toy. And that's fine.
Yeah. How long did it even take for Tails to make the fucking Zeddy Zapper? Not very long, considering how the invasion of the Zeddy happened. It just... was pretty rapid the whole time. Just it just all this talk about the formatting and stuff. It might seem superfluous and tertiary, but I feel like it all relates to just what the miniseries has been doing. I feel like it all relates to just what the legacy of this story is, which is just at the moment it just feels like it's just cynical, just compromise.
Yeah, it feels like the storytelling of the comic at the moment is being compromised by marketing. But it's comics.
It
It
is.
happens, and you know, like, you know, the Death of Superman was a pretty legendary comic book story, and it was happening across I think 4 titles a month,
Yeah.
sometimes 5, because at one point Green Lantern was in on it, and
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes Justice League was in on it,
Yeah, and like,
or was Justice League in on it the whole time? God. Anyway,
and
like,
that was the '90s, which, for those of you who aren't aware, was the decade where Marvel went fucking bankrupt.
mhm.
Marvel went fucking so this isn't like oh, this might seem weird, but actually in the '90s it happened like this, so it's all good. No, this is what happens when you're in trouble. When something's
Yeah.
just not going as well as it needs to be, and just yeah.
And in the case of this, the fact that we aren't having to buy these comics, both the miniseries and the main series, every month, is at least easier on everyone's wallet. Because while $5, the $5 buy-in for the comic is not huge, when you double that to a $10 buy-in, it
Mm-hmm.
starts getting a bit iffier.
Yeah, that we're saving that
Um,
for the double issue,
yeah, AC50 is
which is
double
gonna be
priced,
double priced.
so because it's double sized.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, again, it's 1 month of paying double,
Hmm.
and hopefully it'll be worth it. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Honestly, I think y'all are more optimistic about issue 50 at this point than I am. Would you say that's accurate?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I'm not feeling great about issue 50 today.
The thing is, I have been enjoying Imposter Syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
even with the fact that like we are being marketed to in a cynical. In fact, I think we actually want to talk about the marketing a bit more before we talk about issue 50,
Sure, let's do that. Let's do that.
because, like I said, these two characters, which they are the focus.
Mm-hmm.
The whole
Surgeon
look. We
Kid.
have two new characters, um, and I want to compare these two to the protagonists of the first miniseries that was
Yeah.
done in IDW,
Mm-hmm.
which was Tangle and Whisper.
Yeah.
Tangle, as a character, was sewn off, I think, before her comic first appearance at like South by Southwest, and it was like, oh look, it's a brand new original character for the comics.
Right.
And she debuted in I think issue 3 or 4
Yeah,
or
four.
something.
Four. Because
Issue
three
4.
was Knuckles and two was Amy.
Yeah,
What was Tails? Yeah.
yeah, because like I think the first 4 issues like all came out once a week
Hmm.
as like a big event to bring in the comic, which feels like a lot of money to be asking people for in 1 month.
We
But
were just talking about how it's only one comic a month, but
yeah,
there we
but
go.
that was the whole thing, and that's how they sort of rang in the series. And Tangle was right there, and much like every character who wasn't Sonic, she appeared in the issue she appeared in, and then didn't appear in the next.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story sort of kept going, and Tangle came back along with every character who was in those first 4 issues except for the villains.
Mm-hmm.
And even they were technically there,
Yeah.
kidnapping
Yeah.
Mr. Tinker.
Yeah.
They all came back for the big like issue 12 finale battle where Tangle met Whisper, who had appeared in issue like 5 or 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they were sort of shown hitting it off. And then later, those two characters together got a miniseries together. In part because of the fact that people responded to them really well.
Yeah.
People really liked these characters, they really liked their personalities and designs, and they wanted to see more of them. And so this duo got their own story together and became much more of an established unit together.
Right. And I think it went to great effect.
Yeah, and not only that, but that was actually followed up by Tangle and Whisper actually for the first time for a comics original character, making the jump from comics into a Sonic the Hedgehog video game.
Yeah.
As they appear in the mobile games Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces Speed Battle. And in Speed Battle, they're not event characters or anything. You could download that game right now and just go and start to unlock them, because they're just part of that game's regular core cast.
Not just event characters, like, the movie characters.
Yeah, they're just put there, and they're considered and treated the same way as Sonic or Knuckles or Blaze. They're treated the same way as Blaze specifically, but
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is about all that is that I feel was all very natural.
It was.
And admittedly, I wasn't reading the comics at the time. Wasn't even like, I was still getting back into Sonic. But I was getting back into Sonic, and I was aware generally of the comic that was happening, even if I wasn't reading it at the time.
And there was some breathing room between when Tangle was revealed and when Whisper was revealed.
Yeah, and these were characters who were very much not made for each other, but they were characters that worked well together, people really responded to, and there is no character in the comics more important to Tangle and Whisper, and no character in the comics more important to Whisper than Tangle.
Yeah, just really lovely. I like that.
Yeah. You sound a little close to your mic.
Sorry. But,
and I go over all this, and I mention how natural it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to contrast it to what happened in summer of last year when Surge and Kit were revealed, well ahead of their miniseries, which is also their debut.
Yes. If you're not counting their cameo in the second part of Trial by Fire.
Yeah. Marketing. Their designs were revealed, and it wasn't especially clear even actually at the time what their deal was.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Evan Stanley's alternate cover of the first issue.
Retail incentive cover, yeah.
I don't think we even knew it was called Imposter Syndrome at the time.
Yeah, or at least we were only just getting an inkling about it with the then Free Comic Book Day issue.
Yeah, because they released Free Comic Book Day issue then, which was part of their 30th anniversary, we're doing classic stuff thing.
Yeah.
And as part of that, there was sort of a hype package for the road to issue 50, which, of course, I remember we were being told it was a
10-issue road.
A 10-issue road when there were not 10 issues left.
Yeah.
Before issue 50. Because, of course, there was also this miniseries, which is required reading.
Yeah.
And then I remember leading up to the miniseries coming out, editor, I believe, then assistant editor, now just editor, Riley Farmer, took to Twitter to specifically ask people to draw fan art of Surge and Kit and send it in so that they would have fan art of Surge and Kit specifically to sew in the fan art corner of the miniseries.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been a sticking point for me personally, just with just how, yeah.
Thing is, when Tangle and Whisper were revealed, well, when Tangle was revealed, it was not very long before the comics she was in actually just happened, and people got to know her, and Then it was not long before Whisper came out, and people got to know her. And they basically got to know these characters through appearing in stories.
Yeah.
Surge and Kit's designs were revealed multiple months before the first issue of their miniseries came out.
And a little bit before their model sheets came out. And I think I
Yeah.
recall Kit's designer Evan Stanley saying, okay, but say hello to these new fellas this time for real.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just kind of, because it wasn't really a real introduction the first time.
Yeah, and it wasn't even especially clear, like, what all their design elements were when they were first revealed, because we just got a very stylized, ominous cover, and but then even when we had their full designs and stuff, and because we got the designs revealed, then we learned the name of the miniseries, and then we learned more what the miniseries was. They had a cameo in Trial by Fire, and only months later did we actually meet them in a story in Imposter Syndrome in November.
And on a personal level, if I may, I try to limit my interaction with parts of the Sonic fandom.
I try to avoid fandoms in general.
Yeah, that too.
My advice.
But I was seeing during that time where we hadn't seen a single story of these characters.
Hadn't seen a single line of dialogue.
A lot of people just saying, "Oh, I love Surge and Kit. I love them. Oh, I'm so excited about these characters and who I love." And it just kind of creeped me out because we hadn't met them. We didn't know them.
We hadn't seen a single panel of story with these characters. We just had designs. And that's a lot of what they were hyped up on, was just their designs. And Evreo in chat writes, every fandom I've tried to be in has plummeted my mental well-being. Oops.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's
look, if
how
you
it goes
happen
for
to
us.
meet somebody who's also a fan of the same thing as you, and they're a cool person, great.
Good for you.
Great. We met Ryan once.
Yeah, and some people say we still know them. But yeah, like it, you know, some people say there's a community of Sonic fans. I disagree.
Yeah, I don't view any fandom as a community. It's anyway.
But yeah.
But there was a lot of just. It felt like a concerted effort to artificially increase the hype around Surge and Kit. I mean, for sales reasons, of course. And like, I get it. It's marketing. It's advertising. But like, it felt like there was just this effort to make people want them and want to like them, or maybe even feel like they're obligated to, because
that's the impression I got.
So the thing is, in modern online fandom, there is an implicit or sometimes explicit pressure put on fans to basically be advocates for brands.
Yes.
To be an unpaid marketing team and to make sure that a thing succeeds, because, well, if you didn't know, I guess you didn't love your preemie puppy enough if they didn't grow as big as Clifford. And so, like, it feels like Sonic fans and Sonic comic fans were kind of being given implicit, sort of marching orders to make sure that Surge and Kit are popular so that Imposter Syndrome and Issue 50 will be a monetary success for Sega.
Yep.
And that's how a lot of stuff online seems to be. Like, there are so many things. Like, the whole point of viral marketing is just emotionally manipulating your fan base into doing unpaid work for you.
Yeah, and you can say that and mean it to mean, like, that's just kind of how it always is, but like, we're here, we're noticing it now, and I think it's important just to say for our little corner of the internet here, it's creepy, it's wrong, I don't like it.
Yeah, and it is something that has come about in large part because of social media, because of how easy it is to access fans and how easy it is to, like, with retweets and shares and whatever and all that, like, it's, the power is in the hands of the viewers to, like, make sure that their favorite brand is making enough money so that the company won't pull the plug. And it felt very deliberate with Surgeon Kit in particular, with just the specific call out for fan art months in advance.
Yep.
The the whole like drumming up of hype and all that, and yeah.
There was like at the bottom left of each cover, which you can see here in the background of our scene, issue 50 is coming.
Yeah.
And on one cover, issue 50 is coming, and Sonic 2 is the movie is now in theaters. And it's sad to me that, like, maybe the most substantial issue of the comic has a cover, and it's just dedicating its bottom left and right hand corners to cynical marketing.
Yeah.
Like two different things they're asking you to spend money on, one of which could kill you because we're in a pandemic.
God.
But yeah, just I'm not the biggest fan of just the overarching vibe of this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of colored my perception of the story being told within it, which, again, we can only really talk about as a whole once we have received issue 51.
Not even issue 50, because we already know we won't be wrapping it up.
No. And can I just say, as someone who has tweeted about Sonic comics on the internet, and particularly this writer's Sonic comics on the internet, I've been told by many people who are very defensive and seemingly not viewing very highly the quality of the work of Ian Flynn. Just very defensive people who will just say, well, hold on. You can't criticize this because it wasn't finished, or it's not done yet, or maybe you'll like it later once it's had this part of the story happen, or something like that. And
it's a very disingenuous defense,
and one that doesn't actually come up on the flip side, because no one ever says, hold on. No fan of these comics has ever said, hold on, don't praise this story yet. It's not done. You might not like the ending.
Even though it's just as true.
It's the same principle. But it doesn't get brought up because positivity is prized over negativity, even when the negativity is predicated upon, hey, I've been reading Ian's comics since I was a kid. I've seen him do better than he's done in recent years, and I think it's good, actually, to expect him to be doing good. Freya writes, I suppose it is like saying someone can't criticize a show if they haven't finished watching the whole season. Certainly, yeah, because it...
And, like, the thing is, you can criticize an episode.
Yeah.
You can criticize something that is a part of something. Heck, you can criticize one scene in something.
Yeah. Like, here's an example. There's an episode of Sonic ZM. I have not committed the name to memory, but there's an episode of the first season that just sucks. It just kind of sucks, of Sonic ZM.
It was the worst episode of that show.
Yep, and it was written by someone who wasn't, like, a big part of the creative team. He never returned, and basically nothing from that episode, if not absolutely nothing, comes up ever again. But by the standards set by some Sonic fans, one would need to wait until the end of the season 1, if not the cancellation of the show, before they could say that episode kind of sucked. Episode just kind of sucked. That episode just kind of sucked. And it's just... It's just kind of unfair, and I don't like the fact that it's this whole overarching thing is just it's been very explicitly tied all together as being on the road to issue 50, which in itself is tied to issue 50, which is a tied to issue 51. So there's just been this long stream of stories and issues that if I have any criticisms about, I if I make a criticism, I'm liable to get told, now hold on just 1 second here. You need to wait until the end of the road to issue 50, the end of issue 50, and then the end of issue 51 before you can decide if you thought issue 2 of Imposter Syndrome just wasn't very good. And that bugs me.
Yeah, and to be fucking clear about all this, people will term search on Twitter, get into your mentions, harass you, just try to ruin your day because you don't like a specific single Sonic the Hedgehog comic book.
It's not doesn't have anything to do with who I'm around or who I interact with. They find me on their own. I'm not seeking them out here.
Yeah, and if you wonder why I have problems and why I stay away from the Sonic fandom, this is but one small example of the many things that keep me away from this fandom.
And it sucks. And I wish
Yeah.
I wish things were better, but we unfortunately just because of the landscape of Sonic as it is, Freya writes in chat that it's awful behavior for sure. We appreciate you just mentioning that, just because
Thanks for being cool and always a nice person and sad.
It can definitely feel like I'm being made invisible when people will just trumpet up the how wonderful the Sonic fandom is and how reformed it is or something like that. It can just feel really like I'm being made invisible by people who do that, just because
people really like to paper over everything bad that Sonic fans do, and there is a large organized contingent of city fucking assholes in the Sonic fandom, to be clear. It's not individual bad operators. There are large Sonic fans with big followings who do targeted harassment, who will term search, find people, and just harass and abuse them. And that's Sonic fandom.
And one might be at this point in our review of the Imposter Syndrome miniseries and think, well, what does that have to do with Imposter Syndrome? To which I would reply, the first issue did bring up the Sonic cycle, so it did kind of bring it up for us. But yeah, but just I'm just a little fatigued, a little tired of just the position this whole road has put me in. Because I have actually liked some parts of this story, and just I would have liked to have for this to have at least resolved more self-containedly, so I could just be able to say, okay, I like this, just print it, ship it, it's good, I like it, I can recommend it. I think Freya writes, I hope you can find peace in more people who treat you better. There's definitely people in my life who treat me very well, and I am just living a very good life as it is. It's just I just try to just bring up for the record that there are bad things, because I don't see that get brought up very often, and it bugs me because
and we see a lot of deflection about it, and
certainly, yeah. But here we are at the end of the road to issue 50. We're at the last issue before it. Not issue 49. This is the last issue before it. Unless you count Free Comic Day, which, why would you do that?
It also came out before this, so.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you because you mentioned about this not really having a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tangle and Whisper, the miniseries.
Yeah.
Tangle and Whisper, the miniseries, starts in its first issue, and it ends in its fourth.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing you need to read before issue 1. You don't even need to read the previous stories that Tangle and Whisper appeared in, because it does a pretty good job of introducing you to who they are.
Yeah.
So you don't got to worry about that. And then after it ends, there's no need to read more if you don't want to. You can just sit down, grab the collected edition of Tangle and Whisper, read through it, and that could be the only Sonic comic published by IDW you read, and you could have a great time.
Yeah, honestly, it's still good.
Comparatively. Bad Guys basically requires you to have knowledge of the Metal Virus arc before you understand its opening.
Mm-hmm.
And while it has a conclusion, it's not very good in my opinion, but it does have a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends, and if you like that story, you could sit down, read that, and have a good time. I wouldn't, but you could.
Yeah.
Then we have Imposter Syndrome.
Which I think is a better time than Bad Guys, but
Yeah, and to Imposter Syndrome's credit, it opens in a way that just introduces you to our new characters and sort of establishes itself, and you don't really need to have read what came before to read issue 1.
Yeah.
You can then proceed into issues 2 and 3 and still have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get here to issue 4 and you don't get an ending.
Yeah.
In order to keep reading, you will have to read issue 50, and then you'll run into the fact that, well, Belle is there in issue 49 and is clearly being set up to have her own arc, being followed through on, meaning that while to read this miniseries, you don't have to read anything that came before. To read this story, you will probably have to, at minimum, read Trial by Fire. Mm-hmm. If not outright, just kind of needing to read Crab and Test Run as well.
Yeah.
And being self-contained is not in and of itself a requirement to be a good story. But when you present something as a limited series or a limited, like a miniseries, which is a limited run thing,
yeah,
I generally expect it to be at least somewhat self-contained. That's why I like limited series and miniseries and all that. Mm-hmm. Because, if I read, like issue, 37 of Batman, mm-hmm. I could be in the middle of a story arc and not have any idea where to go. I could go and read issue 1 of X-Men thinking that will give me what I want, and only to find that I was supposed to have read House of X before I read issue 1.
Funny that.
No one told me.
Yeah.
But if I read Tangle and Whisper, mm-hmm. I can just read that. That's just a story. Mm-hmm. And without an ending, even with me thinking that, this is a pretty good, collection of 4 comics, this isn't a story in the sense that it does not actually end. And it won't end for another 2 comics.
Which will at least take only 2 months.
Yeah. And not 4, as there are also, there's also 2 months in there with comics that don't directly relate to it.
Yeah.
Which is... It's been tiring,
It's been tiring. We're probably going to have to reread some comics in the lead up to reading issue 50 when it comes out. Mm-hmm. In the space year of this year, but next month in 10 days. 10 days, a month from 10 days from now. I said that weird.
Yeah.
It's on June 22nd.
Yeah.
June 22nd, this one. Issue 50.
It's a month out. And 10 days from now, not 10 days next month.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Next month isn't 10 days from now.
It certainly isn't. Oh, man. But, yeah. I had a good time reading this comic with y'all, and I had a good time reading this miniseries with y'all. It
Yeah.
actually turned out better than I thought it would.
Honestly,
Um,
I did not have high hopes with issue 1 or 2 when they
mm-hmm.
initially came out. It was only on our reread of them both together right before issue 3 came out that I actually felt a bit more positively.
Yeah,
And issue 3 was actually quite good. Issue 4 is not as good as issue 3.
yeah.
Um,
We're at another
but
miniseries where 3 was the highlight. Like
yeah,
Tangle
but
Whisper, I think, by my estimation.
because yeah, this is just kind of the action-packed part where there's a fight scene a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a better fight scene than we got in issue 3, but or issue no issue 2. I'm thinking of the fight scene. I actually like the fight scene in issue 3, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say they're comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's
We've been enjoying pretty much all of these stories besides Free Comic Day that have been leading up to issue 50. We've enjoyed this road.
yeah. hmm the road to issue 50 has been enjoyable, and there's been good stuff in it. And
And as you may have heard many times before, you know, it's not the destination, it's the journey, which kind of ties into why I'm so disappointed because by this issue is because you know, we've been having such a good time on this journey and then this last part is just how about that destination, huh?
hmm,
And, you know,
yeah,
yeah. We'll see what we think of issue 50.
yeah. I think I do. I guess have relatively. I don't know if I don't know if high expectations is the right word. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoyed how Eggman was written this issue,
Yeah.
and I liked how he was written with Starline this issue, both
Mhm.
in the flashback and in them finally coming face to face again.
Mhm.
Um, I do think there's definitely a potential to just get the my least favorite kind of Ian writing Eggman, which
Yeah.
could happen, but we'll see.
We'll see how things shake out. But in the meantime, I think that's pretty much our review of the Imposter Syndrome issue 4 and the miniseries as a whole.
Yeah,
I'd rate it if we're giving it a score from 1 to 5, I'd give it a 3.
and I think I'd pretty solidly give it a 4.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's that's us. If you're watching on Twitch and haven't yet, please feel free to give us a follow. If you're watching on YouTube on our VOD channel, Ryan would give it a 3.5, up right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, give a comment. You know, like how have you been finding this road to issue 50? How you've been finding this miniseries? You know,
yeah,
do you have high hopes? Do you have worries? Feel free to sound off.
yeah. Well, till next time, I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's closed over there.
Hey,
Bye.
bye bye.